for your patience. As mentioned in the press announcement for this day, we are here to confirm the arrest of John Joseph Gleason, the elected county clerk of Genesee County. But before I go any farther, I want to assure those that are working in the clerk's office and in the Register of Deeds, those that work every day to interact with our public, with those that are coming to do business of the county, that those hard workers, they are to be commended, and that the actions of others do not define who they are. I know they're watching either now or later, and I want you to know that this team up here in the county that you serve appreciates your hard work. And I also can confirm that we have probably many questions that you may have that may not be answered today. But if you follow along and you are with us during this journey, a lot of this will roll out. I also want to talk to the victims in this case, the female victims. I promised you when we started that you would have a voice. Captain Nelson, the officer in charge of this case, promised you that you'd have a voice. Our prosecutor from Tuscola County, the special prosecutor, Mark Reen, promised you that you'd have a voice. And today, that voice is heard. And we're going to continue to protect you. I will also tell you that there are some issues that we are going to cover, aside from the arrest, but also what's next. And we're going to address the upcoming election and how the people of Genesee County can have faith in the system. So before I turn over to Mr. Reen, I will confirm that the warrant that Mr. Gleason was arraigned on just a few minutes ago was issued by the Tuscola County Prosecutor's Office and signed this morning by Judge Gwynn, sworn out by Captain Carrie Ann Nelson. An arrest was taken place as we found where Mr. Gleason was at the second floor of the Genesee County Clerk's building. It was without incident. He was brought over to the Genesee County Jail as we would any other felony arrest. He was processed through without incident. And as you can see behind me, he was arraigned a short ago. And we will continue this process as the prosecutor and the court and his defense will push through. And for that, and any more information reference the case details, I turn over to our prosecutor from Tuscola, Mark Reen. Prosecutor.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll initially comment and I'll try to be as brief as possible. No one ever believes that, obviously, when an attorney steps forward. But today is a positive day for truth and justice. I initially like to make my comments as I have to and remind everyone that a criminal defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. That's the situation in Genesee County, in the state of Michigan, and in the United States. So we all keep that in mind as we proceed today. This has been a journey working through this case, and I initially have to comment about the great work that's been done by the Sheriff's Office, obviously the Sheriff and Captain Nelson, with the work that they've done in continuing to seek out the truth and the facts. And sometimes that's a short journey and sometimes it's a longer one. However, we're confident that we've got to the exact point we need to be today, and we've got it right, and that's why these charges were authorized at the time they were. I also want to comment about the victims. I've had the opportunity to learn in detail about what has transpired throughout this case. And I can tell you what I've learned is that they strike me as individuals who simply wanted to come to work, serve the public, and do a good job. And unfortunately, they encountered behavior that has resulted in our coming together today to address what has happened. I would also just like to mention at this point in time, as we've gone through this investigation, at various times people have come forward with more information about the defendant, other potential issues, and I, at this point, would invite you to provide that to the Genesee County Sheriff's Office and Captain Nelson. if you have more information that needs to be provided, now is the time to step forward and do that. I'd also like to make a brief comment about law enforcement in general and what you're, quite frankly, blessed to have in Genesee County. We're in an unprecedented time in this country in regard to the view toward law enforcement and what happens and what occurs. I can tell you my experience with this sheriff and this captain is the same, that they're concerned about the truth, they're concerned about the facts, and there is no other agenda. And I think that's discussions that will become available when it can. At this point, I would again turn the matter back over to the sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We also want to recognize the hard work of Captain Carrie Ann Nelson, who was assigned this case from the beginning. These are some very difficult times to navigate, as mentioned by the prosecutor, but she stayed with it, and for that I appreciate it. The county appreciates it, and certainly the victims. I will tell you the third issue is the upcoming election, May 3rd. And you know, when you have both the clerk and the deputy clerk charged with criminal offenses in two separate incidences, it begs the question, what do we do to maintain the integrity of the system? And I've already been in communication this morning with Commissioner Dominique Clemens, who's the board chair, and he has summoned his colleagues, and there will be a time where they discuss the next best steps. That is not my jurisdiction, but I know that they have the best interests of the county at hand. They represent every inch of this county, all 9 commissioners, and I trust their judgment. And I will also ask that those watching, as mentioned by Mr. Reen, that you come forward and you feel comfortable enough with this office, as I think we've proven over many years, to tell your story. As a victim out there may have said something or heard something that you feel that you have not been able to come forth, as Captain Nelson has been introduced, she will hear you. And as we take this journey together as a community, I trust you that the right people in the right spots will make the right decisions to have an election, and we will continue with this process. There's going to be a time that we need to heal and restore faith, and today starts that time. Thank you for taking your moments to hear what we have to say, and again, stay tuned for additional updates as we proceed. Thank you, and thank you. Good day.
Can we ask Mark a question or anything like that? Mark?
You can. And there's a press release here and a copy of the criminal complaint that I will make available for you to take a copy of.
Okay, thank you for that. But can you give us any sort of you called this a journey earlier. Can you give us any sort of a timeline as to how this all transpired and what led up to this arrest today?
It actually is contained in the criminal complaint itself, the passage of time and the circumstances forth. And there's been a series of incidents that have occurred throughout the time period that's listed in our complaint.
Mark, his clerk Gleason indicated at all that he intends to resign or anything like that. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's still the clerk for the May 3rd election, correct?
He is at this point in time. No, there's been no information received in regard to that.
Did these start in 2019? Did the investigation start then?
The investigation started in 2020 and encompasses the time through March of this year.
Can you just describe in whatever detail you're comfortable with the basis of the charge, the circumstances around the charge? What happened?
We're going to obviously be very limited in regard to that. It involved interaction with members of the clerk's office itself. And going beyond that, I'm not able to do it. I understand no reason for the question.
Mark, we've heard victims. How many are there?
Well, in regard to employees in the office, primarily 2.
Mark, were you able to say that this is in relation to the 2019 marriage he performed outside the county, is that correct?
So it initially started the investigation, and then it has progressed through a series of other events. That's correct.
So,
But let me clarify, though. He's not being charged at this time for the misperformance of a marriage. That's not what transpired. It's what occurred afterwards, and then after that.
so what occurred in the process of the investigation?
Yes.
This might be in the court document too, but can you give us like the penalties for these charges if convicted? And do you know if he was able to bond out, or is he going to remain in custody?
he was granted a PR bond, so he'll be able to be released today. He'll be eligible for that. The penalties for the two offenses, the first offense, the witness interference, is a 4-year felony, and the willful misconduct in office is a 1-year misdemeanor.
We know that Genesee County Prosecutor David Layton recused himself from this case, so how can the Genesee County Sheriff's Office investigate this with it being a county employee?
Entirely distinct and different entities in that regard. And let me comment on that. I think this is the absolute perfect case to have a prosecutor recuse himself to avoid any appearance of impropriety and the relationship that he has with other elected officials. There's been absolutely nothing from an investigative standpoint, again, to show anything except complete attention to detail, professionalism, and a non-biased investigation by the Sheriff's Office. And it has been detailed. I would also indicate that they've been extraordinarily responsive to anything that our office requested by way of additional information. You're lucky in this jurisdiction. Not everywhere do you have a sheriff like this and a captain like Captain Nelson to gather information and continue to attempt to ascertain what the truth is. That's the objective. In every one of these situations, I hope everybody understands it. That's what we're looking for. What is the truth and what is justice? And this was hopefully a substantial step in that direction today.
When you talked about the marriage license, though, where are you at with that investigation? Is Gleason going to face any charges with the marriage license, or have you resolved that?
I'm going to leave that if he hasn't been charged with anything in regard to the misperformance of a marriage.
Are all the victims women?
They are. Thank you. Appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you, everyone. So how many copies do you have of that?
Yeah, those.
Got about 20. Actually, I'm quite ahead.
All right, thank you.
Smarter than I would. Appreciate it. I'll leave them on here.
Perfect.
Murphy.